In this video, I explore a few techniques commonly employed when you're on a solo trip and you need to perform some kind of a recovery. On this particular trip, I knew I was headed to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, to some land with which I'm very familiar. I knew I had to go up and down an approximately 25 to 27 degree incline, and I knew that on the way up, I would be pulling a trailer. I also knew that there was significant distance between the peak of this incline and the nearest winch anchor, which would be some sort of a stump. So I figured I better try and use some sort of winch anchor, so I purchased a pole pal prior to the trip. Now, a couple of things I didn't know prior to heading out on this trip was that the forecast would be wrong. It would rain quite a bit, and the incline I had to drive up was going to get very muddy and very slick. I also didn't know that I'd be coming home from dinner fairly late the one evening and accidentally perch my driver's side wishbone of my independent front suspension up onto a stump. And lastly, before I dive into the action, I should address the obvious question. Well, you don't have a solo recovery problem if you don't go solo. The best recovery equipment I could have brought is my wife's nice shiny new 4xe Rubicon Wrangler. But as a practical matter, there are times when I go out off-roading by myself and I need to have adequate equipment to recover myself and my vehicle in some pretty extreme circumstances. One challenge for me is that I pull a trailer. So some of my recovery equipment is on the trailer and some is on the truck. So I have to try to anticipate if I'm going to be in a situation where I might need recovery when I'm away from my trailer. As you can see in this photo, I have my high lift jack and the pole pal mounted on the trailer, but I typically keep my traction boards and my other recovery gear in my truck.
Okay, I'm going to have to change GoPro batteries. What I'm going to do now, a combination of two things here, demonstrate some gear, but hundreds of videos out there have demonstrated a pole pal winch anchor, but I'm also going to set the winch anchor and I'm going to leave it there till tomorrow. Because tomorrow I have to pull my trailer up that slope, and I don't get two chances. If I start slipping and sliding and need to go backwards, there's a good chance of doing a sort of vertical jackknife there because it's such a sharp rise, or it just, gets wonky, goes sideways, and I really do jackknife it. So what I think I'm going to do is pull up 2/3 of the way, connect the winch line, and just keep enough tension on the winch line that I won't have any fear of going backwards. And if nothing else, it'd be a good first try with the pole pal. Okay, step one is to see when I put that receiver winch on there, it definitely messes with my angle of approach, and I don't know if it's going to dig into the soil first. If it does, then tomorrow my plan will be get the truck pointed up the hill, stop, then put the winch in, then proceed. So step one, we'll see if I have a problem with the approach angle with the winch already installed. All right, I got enough of a break in the rain here. So the winch did not dig, which is good. And you can see it right up there. It's just enough of a gap. And you can kind of see why that hitch, the pintle itself will scrape the ground a little bit. At least every other time I've done it, it won't do it yet. And you can kind of see why that angle is so critical. I can't fool around as I'm going up because the spare tire, you see it there underneath my rooftop tent cover, just about touches the top back, and the jerry cans just about touch that spare as I'm going up. I took some video as I drove down. You can really see, unfortunately the GoPro aimed slightly badly, so you couldn't see this clearly. Now right up there is where I'm going to put the pole pal, because there's nothing to anchor to as I climb out of here. It's a big clearing. And you can see there the front of the winch did not taste any of the grass there, so that's perfect. Worked out just right. So I'm going to go grab the pole pal, try and find a good spot. All right, let's see if I can do a little better job placing this today than I did Friday when I drove down there. Gotta watch my step, little mud holes and this and that. I'm going to try and get it set to where the front of the truck and the pole pal will remain in frame, But I really want to get the pull pal probably over there. So I think I'm going to have to come farther back. It's really marshy in a couple of spots here. All right, so should be able to, maybe back in here, be able to see when I get the pull pal established and see the winch line kind of coming up. It looks like the winch line is going to drag on the ground a little bit. And we'll see if I have enough winch line to get up here. Perhaps even more importantly.
So this first attempt is pretty unsuccessful. You see there's a bit of jumpiness in the video I edit out where I have to walk back and forth and gauge the clutch. I'm using a cordless remote here. But in the very soft and kind of boggy soil in this part of the clearing, all I'm able to do is drag the pull pal forward. You'll also notice what a difficult pull this is. The winch isn't trying to pull the truck out of a hole or something. It's trying to pull it against the grade of the incline and then pull it up. So it really compresses your suspension and pushes you into the ground. So I make a few more attempts with the pull pal here. Each time I kind of let out a little more winch line. I try to find slightly firmer soil. You can see in these attempts, I don't even bother going back to my truck to try to drive the truck up. I just try to pull a little tension on the winch line, and the soil is so soft that the pull pal pulls out almost immediately. So there were probably about 3 or 4 attempts here in this soft soil that were just so pointless. I just kept, it was really more practicing with my technique of the pull pal, but it was obvious to me just with a little tension on the winch line that this soil was not going to hold the pull pal sufficiently well for me to get any kind of tension into the winch line.
It's obviously grabbing, but it needs to keep tunneling deeper and not just start floating on top of the ground there. So I'm just going to give it a few more tries. When I'd seen in other people's videos, it's not unusual to take a few tries to get the plow to find its home. I have almost no tension on here at all. And there we go. So far, so good. It's seating and it's going down, not up. Okay, and the center post is digging in there. All right, now I will see if it can stay there as it assists me pulling up. Because again, I'll have plenty of traction tomorrow. I just need an assist, potentially, with the trailer.
Now I have to say, in hindsight, had I looked at the GoPro footage while I was out in the field, I would have realized the pull pal pretty much did its job. The problem is, with my angle, I'm looking straight up in the sky, so I can't really see what's happening. And in looking at this video, I think I slightly overran my winch line, took the tension off the pull pal, and that kind of allowed it to get itself freed up. At that point, I think the truck's going to slip down the hill, so I just leave enough tension there to secure it, and I get up and look at the pull pal. And when I do that, when I try and re-engage full tension, at that point the pull pal does break loose. So the short and the long of this is, in adequately firm soil, the pull pal did a pretty good job. As you can see, it got the truck up the hill. But here, where each time I kind of overrun the tension in the winch line, so it jerks and pulls, and eventually I did break it loose. It was around this point that I realized I was far enough up the hill that I could just chock my wheels, and I had enough winch line to reach a stump, and I just used some other recovery equipment I keep with me to accomplish the recovery so that I could do the same thing the following morning.
And as fate would have it, the next little bit of rain is coming in now. So again, it's not that it's not working. Like right here, it was still holding. I mean, you can see it only went forward a couple of feet. But it is moving more, and it's not quite allowing me to crest the hill. Now, it's also a really weird angle. You know, it's compressing my suspension as much as pulling me out, so I'm giving it a really good test here. But I think I have learned that tomorrow morning I'm going to make sure I can winch pull off those stumps. All right, I think I've got enough line now. I did chock the wheels, but at that angle I wouldn't count on chocks to hold. Now I can just do a tree protector around these stumps and get myself the rest of the way up the hill. All right, so I'll have to become a pull pal expert another day. Now that stump is well anchored, but I'm definitely be keeping my eye out as well, just because you can see someone had tried to burn it, but that is extremely well anchored. See, the pull pal gave it the college try, but trying to pull the truck down into the slope was just more than this soil could handle. Okay, on the left is my very expensive and thus far failed plan A. On my left is plan B. Tree protector, heavy chain that I carry with me with my recovery gear, clevis at one end, declevis at the other. So I think I'm going to go ahead and back down the hill one more time, and this time see if I can, without drama, winch myself up. If yes, then that's my plan for tomorrow. If not, what I do is I get the truck up the hill, and then I use the winch to pull the trailer up the hill separately, which will be a little messy, but it'll work. And I got a receiver set up so I can just slap the winch on the back end after I get the truck up, and leaving the trailer down at the bottom, I can just winch it out by its lunar ring. So there's plenty of ways to skin the cat, but at least in this particular soil, with my level of expertise, the ground anchor was not successful. Now that I'm going to have some actual tension on the line and not just rip the pull pal out of the ground, I have some really good sandbags for dampeners. I didn't bring them. So I just threw my old Alice pack on there and kind of secured it with straps, because this actually will pull some serious tension. Thing about where I am is, obviously it got me right out, but there's like 3 more ruts, so I got to make sure I didn't just get restuck, but at least I'm still secured. I'll reel in the line and we'll get it sorted. So far so good. Interestingly, by stacking the logs, I pushed the point at which my hitch drags farther back. So right now, not only am I climbing the hill, I think the jerry cans and the spare tire just rubbed my vinyl spare tire carry. Little wheel spin, but then it caught itself. Okay. And that is where I am satisfied. I need to make sure the truck can hold its position here. I think it's chocked by the logs. Now I'm going to run the winch cable. So here's hoping. It took me so long to get out of here this morning. It's actually in pretty decent shape. I tried to put back on my seatbelt. I forgot that I'm at an angle, so nothing doing there. Okay, so here we go. Release the parking brake. I'm just going to stay in first gear and let the winch do most of the work. Should be no drama. What I don't like about these angles is it really compresses the front suspension down. There we go. Again, really got to let the winch do the work, otherwise my wheels will slip on the logs. There, I can feel the winch pulling. I've got mostly traction now, but I don't want to fool around spinning my wheels on the way up. And there we go. And again, I'm just going to kind of sit here now, let the winch take over until the trailer and I can see there was no tension in the line. So I just want to keep going with the winch, not spin my tires and get the trailer all the way up. As you know, a good high pull winch has insane gearing. There's like zero tension in the line. It's not even lifting the chain because my crawl ratio is such that I'm just about the same speed as the winch. So here we go. Yeah, at this point I'm outrunning the winch. I'm gonna have to stop and let it catch up. Oh, there it goes. Same thing. Ease into it. Let the winch take up the line. I just don't want the winch to get wound under no tension. And the trailer looks pretty level now. All right. All right. Just set the truck in neutral there at the end. Off the winch tension. I can kind of feel the pull back, and there we go. So that was what I thought was going to be the hardest part of getting out of here. By the grace of God, lots of good recovery gear, really no drama. Just got as far as I could, hooked to the anchor, and pulled up the rest of the way.
In the course of this trip, I used clevises, snatch block, tree protector, winch, chain, my high lift jack, the base for the high lift jack, my high lift jack's rock rail adapter, traction boards and a pull pal, and probably a few other tools that I forgot about. All of that in the course of just a fairly simple camping trip. So when people say go ahead and acquire some good recovery gear and keep it with you, they are not exaggerating. If you get into any kind of adventures at all, especially if you're camping solo, like me, you will probably end up using every piece of your recovery gear before the trip is over.